Welcome to our second episode of My Life with Hugh, Syron. Glad to have you with us, Hugh. Thanks again.
Well, thanks again for having me. I sure appreciate it.
Well, we do too. Hugh has been a resident of Oxford for over 18 years, a GM retiree. He's a member of the Vietnam Veterans Post 133, the American Legion 108, the Disabled American Veterans, and the Marine Corps League out of Flint. Where we left off, we were talking about your experiences in Vietnam and the Marine Corps. And we've already talked about the petition drive for your late buddy, Pat Gallagher,
Yep.
For the way that he gave his life over there. And we were just starting when we left off last time to talk about your meeting Pat and what you thought of him and so forth. So let's go back to that.
Okay.
When did you first meet Pat Gallagher?
Well, I don't think I was even in country a month when I met Pat, but you know, they assigned us an operation. We were going out on an operation, and we went out on the operation, and they assigned Pat's gun team to our platoon. Mm-hmm. And that's how I originally met Pat. He and I started, talking and, comparing notes on Ireland. And,
Sure. Well, you're both being Irish,
yeah.
But did it seem a little unusual that somebody from another country came over to the United States and in such a short period of time was fighting for the United States? Did he ever talk about that sort of thing?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, and he felt the same way I did. We're fighting for the same thing. Mm-hmm. We're not. We're fighting for the freedoms of the South Vietnamese people. We're fighting for, the right to say what you want to say, do what you want to do type thing, and we're fighting for our country. And Pat felt right at home in this country. Mm-hmm. Right off the bat, he told me that he felt like he was home.
Before he did any of the heroic deeds that we talked about before, was there something special about this man you noticed?
Oh, absolutely. His maturity, for one thing. The rest of us were 18, 19 years old. Pat was a year older than me, but which isn't much, but he had a maturity about him, I think, of a much older person. Mm-hmm. And, he was a by the numbers kind of guy, and very loyal individual, and he was very focused, on his mission over there.
Did his parents live in the United States too? Did they come over with him? He came over.
He came over here and he lived with his grandparents.
What prompted him to do that?
I believe work. I think he wanted to come over here, and he had more job opportunities here, and and since he had family here, he felt that he could make a better life here.
Okay, so tell me about. Well, I already asked you the best things you remember about being out in the field. Mm-hmm. What's the worst thing you remember about being out in the field?
Well, honestly, it's the death. It's these guys, you eat with them, you sleep with them. They're closer than your family, really, when you're out there. And then you see one of them laying in the mud dead. You
never get used to that, do you?
No. And I still see that.
Yeah. So, how did you find out that they were going to move you on from that location and move you to the next phase of things with you in the Marine Corps?
We didn't know.
You didn't know till it happened.
Right.
You didn't know till the bus pulled up.
That's right.
Or the helicopter.
The helicopter.
And what was the next step?
After Operation Hastings?
Yes.
That was a continue of Operation Hastings. They were called the Prairie Operations.
So you were still out in the field?
We were, yeah. Well, what we did was we went back, we regrouped for, I think it was about a day and a half, picked up new equipment, clothing, things like that, and water and food and things, and then we went back out again.
When you say you went back, did you go back to Da Nang, or where did you go back to?
Yeah, we went back to Da Nang.
Okay.
Yeah, the main airstrip there at Da Nang, and that's where we refitted and everything.
Okay.
Picked up a few new people.
And how often did this continue to happen until you left Vietnam?
The whole time I was over there, I don't think we did it more than 4 or 5 times.
But you did the same thing all the time, right?
Yeah.
You were out in the field.
Yep.
Okay. What was going on in Vietnam just before you actually left the country?
Well, it was real turmoil. There was rumors of the Tet Offensive, and that, we didn't know the Tet Offensive was coming, but there was rumors of it, and it was a pretty uneasy atmosphere,
So what went through your mind when you got your orders to go home?
Thank you.
Were you expecting it, or?
Oh no, I was expecting it. You spend so much time over there, and then when you're going home.
Right. And what was going through your mind about what am I going to do next?
Well,
or were you so anxious to get out of the war situation, that you weren't really that worried about that?
I really didn't care what I did next, but it was kind of funny, and I'm sure you've probably heard this story many times, but they gave me a choice. They said, okay, when you go back to the States, you pick 3 duty stations, and if we can't give you the first one, we'll give you the second one. If you can't get the second one, we'll give you the third one. And I didn't get any of my 3 picks.
Really?
Right.
So did they make you stay in the reserves for a while? Or?
Oh no, they sent me back to. I did 4 years service, so when I went home, I had about 2 years to go, and so they sent me down to Naval Air Station Cecil Field. We were security for a nuclear weapons compound, and we transported.
Forgive me, but I don't know where that is. Where is Cecil Field?
It's just outside of Jacksonville, Florida.
Florida. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you could have had worse assignments in Florida.
Yeah.
You sound.
I thought so before I went down there, and then after I got down there, I was wishing I was back in Vietnam again.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, tell me. So, did you have to go through some additional training to do whatever it was you were doing down there?
No, not really. They put me into a team leader down there, which was basically a squad leader, and they called me a relief leader, and we'd be posted on guard duty and things like that. It was a Marine barracks. We had other duties besides that, but that was our primary duty, and. We did flag details, burial details, money details, just a host of things, chaser details.
Doesn't sound like a very interesting job.
No.
And how long were you there?
I was there for about 2 years.
Wow. Did you get to go back home to Youngstown very often?
No. I went home one time to Youngstown out of that period of time, and that was to get married. My wife and I, after I'd been down there in Florida a couple of months, then I went home. My wife and I were married. And
okay, so is it during those 2 years down in Florida that you started to get in touch again with the girl you ended up marrying?
Well, no, while I was down, yeah, well, as soon as I came home, I hooked up with her there in Youngstown. And I ran into her, like I said, in a restaurant.
And you said, honey, I think you're the one?
And well, not that fast, not quite that fast, but it was pretty quick.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now, but we'll be back to pick up on your life here in just a moment, so don't go away.
There's a lot of history to Oxford. Hidden around every corner, deep in every crack, and sometimes right in front of you, waiting to be discovered. If you just dig a little, you'll find the great history of our beautiful town. Welcome to Historic Oxford.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435. or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Back on My Life with Hugh Syron. Hugh, we're talking about when we know you met your wife. Was it before going into the Marines, or you?
Just one time through a friend, and then when I came back from Vietnam, I think it was the first day or two I was back. I ran into her at a restaurant, and I said, "Hey, let's go out."
You ran into her in Youngstown, or
yeah,
where?
Youngstown.
Oh, okay.
Youngstown. Yeah. And I said, "Can I take you out some evening?" And so that's how we got together. And then during that period of time that I was on leave, she asked me if I wanted to go out on her grandfather's boat with her and her family.
Oh, you mean on in the Youngstown area on Lake Erie, or?
Lake Erie, yeah.
Okay. Now, did you mention something about her parents being involved in the military or coming from a military family or something?
Yeah, her grandfather raised her, and he was a chief E9, retired out of the Navy. And her father actually, too, he was overseas in New Guinea during the Second World War.
Uh-huh. Did you guys get married during the 2 years that you were stationed in Florida?
Actually, we got married, let's see, I think it was maybe about 5 months after I came back from Vietnam.
From Vietnam. So for most of the time you were down in Florida, you were husband and wife then.
Yeah.
I have to ask you this before I forget it. Your buddy whom you signed up with, did he make it out of Vietnam?
Yes, he did.
Cool, thank goodness
Yeah,
for
he
that.
came out in one piece.
Okay, have you kept in touch with him?
For a little while I did, and then we kind of lost contact. He went in a different direction, and I think he's down in Philadelphia right now.
Yeah. As you were getting close to the end of your final 2 years in the Marine Corps, okay, here you were stationed in Florida with a job you didn't particularly care for, married to the wife you did particularly care for. What were you thinking would be next in your career at that time?
Well, I knew what was coming next. I knew I was going to get out, and I knew I was going to go home, and I was going to go back to the steel mills, and that's what I did.
Okay. How long did you stay in the steel mills per se down there?
Until 1977.
But during that time, you did something else, didn't you? You went to school, didn't you?
Oh yeah. I served a 4-year formal apprenticeship. Yeah.
All right, tell me about that. An apprenticeship for what?
Machinist, in the machinist trade.
Okay, and that was in connection with the steel mill. Did they put that on?
Yeah, in conjunction with the government. And the government paid for everything for me. And like I said, it was a 4-year education. And boy, I'll tell you what, that's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Why is that?
Because I loved, like I said before, I loved working with my hands, and I loved the trades. My dad was a machinist also, so was my grandfather. And so it's just something I like to do, And my other uncles too, that worked in the steel mills, they were all mechanically inclined also, So, I mean, I got a lot of help there and a lot of push there too,
When was the first sign that things were headed south in the steel industry down there?
Well, that was around 76, 77, and they actually closed the mills down in 77. And that's when they sent me packing, and that's when I came up here to Michigan and went to work for General Motors.
How'd you feel about all that? I don't mean that to be a dumb question, but you probably saw it coming to a certain degree, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We saw it coming. I don't know, probably about 6 or 7 months in advance. We saw things happening. They started selling a lot of things off, and they were talking about foreign steel coming in and taking our jobs, taking our business.
Did your dad have any advice for you during all this?
Well, pretty much. He says he didn't really want me going into the machinist trade to begin with.
Really?
And he said get into something else. He said get into further your education and get into electronics or something like that, something in that line, you know. And I just told him, I said, Dad, I like what I'm doing, you know, and I'm going to stick with it.
How did you find out about job opportunities in Michigan?
Well, I'll tell you what, we had a lot of skilled people down there in Youngstown looking for a job. And so a lot of these companies from all over the country came in there, and I pretty much had my choice where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I was interviewed by Boeing up in Seattle, and they wanted to hire me, you know, and then I was interviewed by the government. I had a skill that not too many machinists had, trepanning, and you know, I knew how to work on a lot of components for ships and things like that. And so,
Explain that a little more.
as far as trepanning,
Yeah, I don't know. I have a clue what that is.
okay, what that is it's just a basic, simple procedure to drill holes in your prop shafts and things. These huge prop shafts for oil flow and things like that. Well, you're drilling a hole that's 40 feet long, and so you know a drill or something that isn't ground right is going to go off at an angle this way or go off at an angle that way. And then you have certain procedures that you go through in order to drill these holes too. You know, certain type of drill to go so far, then you use another drill, and you have to run coolant in there constantly to flush the holes out. There's a lot of complexity to it.
Now, you mentioned you had some government opportunities there. What were you tempted
Yeah,
in
I
that
was.
direction?
Yeah,
or-
I was. They offered me a job there at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, and I talked to my wife about it, and she says, all our family's in Ohio, Youngstown. She says, I realize we got to move away, but she says, I don't want to get too far away, you know. So that's when I interviewed with GM, and they said, hey, when can you start? And
Okay, so tell me what type of position you were interviewing for with General Motors and at what facility?
well, the first position was machinist, and that was at the Chevy Forge down in Hamtramck. And I worked down there for about 9 months, and then I applied for the position at the tech center.
When you first moved to Michigan, where did you live?
Oh, we lived in Fraser when we first moved up there.
Did you have any kids at that time?
Yeah, we had actually all three of my kids.
Okay.
And my son, he was just a year old at the time.
Okay, did your wife decide to work outside the home at that point or not?
No, she stayed in the home pretty much until my son was about halfway through high school,
Okay,
and he's the youngest.
okay. So okay, Hamtramck, did you say you were working? And what were you doing there for GM?
Machinist,
Okay,
machinist first class.
and how long were you there?
Not about 9 months.
Okay, and what caused the change?
Well, I just saw an opportunity. They were hiring at the tech center, and they hired me into a salaried position there.
And that position was what?
That was experimental technician.
Okay, we're going to take a break and we're going to talk more about that with Hugh Syron. Don't go away.
Okay.
Back with Hugh Syron, talking about your career with General Motors and your move from Hamtramck to the Tech Center.
Yeah.
Now, I got to say that what's going through my mind is here's a guy from the military who's suddenly being drawn into kind of a top secret situation again, only this time with General Motors. Is that true or not?
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah.
So tell me,
I don't know if it was top secret or not. But
well, you know, what was it that interested you about the move to the tech center?
well, the job. It entailed working on future projects. Concept cars. I'm a car guy to begin with. Before I started with GM, I love cars. And I thought, boy, this is an opportunity and a half, And
What kind of car was your first car?
it was a '53 Ford, totally custom. I had worked when I was in high school, and then my dad and mom gave me some money when I graduated from there, and so I bought a '53 Ford, totally customized.
Holy cow! All right, so you're starting at the tech center. What were your first thoughts when you walked through the doors out there, going to your new job?
Wow. I thought I died and went to heaven when I saw all the machinery in there and all the technical equipment and things that.
What really shocked the heck out of you? Did you see some concept cars that just blew you away?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I worked on a few of them. That we worked on a lean machine. Have you ever heard of that? Mm-hmm. We worked on that, and then it was used in a Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes movie. And we worked on presidential limousines, mm-hmm. and just a whole bunch of stuff. Corvette stuff. We did some Corvette stuff.
Did you still own any old cars at that time?
I've got a '95 Corvette.
Ah, you're a vet man. Okay.
Yeah.
What color is it?
It's red.
All right.
Yeah.
What did you feel good about the most? What gave you the most pleasure about that position out there at the tech center?
Well, I think the thing that I like, I liked uncertainty, to be honest with you. And, I didn't know what I was going to work on the next day. And, I kept looking forward to the next project and, and meeting new people, directors, program directors and people like that, very interesting people to deal with,
And where were you living at this point?
We were living, let's see, at that point, we had just moved from Fraser to Clinton Township.
Okay, East Sider.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you said your wife started working outside the home?
Oh, my son was I think a junior in high school.
Okay. Was it during that time that you were at the tech center?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was when she re-entered the workforce, what was her first job?
Well, she went to school for a little while before she entered the workforce, and then she went to school doing billing. Mm-hmm. And then she furthered her education, and she worked for a couple of different hospitals. She worked for McLaren, she worked for Beaumont for a while, and she's working for Hurley right now.
Okay, so she's involved with the hospitals.
Yeah.
How long were you at the tech center?
I was there, let's see, probably, I'm guessing maybe around 20 years.
Was that your last assignment before retiring from General Motors?
Yes, it was, but I left the tech center and then I came back.
What did you leave the tech center for?
Well, I went to, they closed our salaried shop up there. So then I took a position as a supervisor in Pontiac headquarters building up there. And it was an experimental shop that we were doing a lot of prototype work, things like that.
More top secret. Yeah. What kind of stuff were you working on?
We did a lot of motor projects, a lot of engine work, and then we were developing machinery also for production lines. We were getting away from the old production line type thing, and what they were doing. Excuse me. They were setting the production lines up with individual CNC machines. And so, if a line broke down, the old style line, everything shuts down, for a long period of time. Well, you have a CNC machine goes down, you just move the program to another machine and continue your work.
So you were seeing the evolution of the plants into the robotic age, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Was there anything that surprised you about that?
Not a whole lot, but one thing that we did kind of touch and work on when in its inception was stereolithography, where you grow parts rather than machine them out of solid materials. And
When you say that, I think 3D printer.
yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And it was pretty basic when we were working on it there, and the materials weren't that great that we were working with, But from what I understand now, it's really gone a long way, and that's basically the future now.
Yeah. What were you hearing from your folks about how things were in Youngstown during all this?
Well, I had all kind of family there besides my mother and father, but and I was hearing from them all. But yeah, Youngstown, it was really in a bad way there. People were. It was kind of sad. The people that worked in the mills, they shut all the steel industry down there, and those people, they didn't want to leave town because they had family and things, so they were taking nickel dime jobs, and it was a pretty sad state. But from now, what I understand now, Youngstown is building back up. It's coming back to be a viable business source.
Right. Tell me about moving to Oxford. How'd that all come about?
Well, my son was he graduated from high school, so I'm a farm guy. I like farm.
Well, yeah, but you never lived on a farm or anything.
No, but I had an uncle that had a farm.
Oh, so you visited him from time to time?
And I just loved it there.
Did he let you get up with the roosters from time to time?
Oh yeah.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And, and he had I don't know, pretty close to 500 acres that he farmed.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And they had some animals and things, and I was really fascinated with the animals and that. But
Okay, so what were you looking for out here?
well, we bought a home with 11 and a half acres here, and we have a couple of horses. I wanted the horses. I've loved horses all my life.
Had you ridden them as a kid out to your uncle's place? Or?
Well, I rode them a little bit, not at my uncle's place, but we used to spend some time on Lake Erie every summer.
Uh-huh.
And the place where we stayed, they had horses there, and I got to do some riding. And then I had some relatives in Colorado, and I got to do a little riding out there out west in Colorado when I was we went out there, 7, 8, 9 years old. But yeah, I fell in love with horses.
So that was 18 years ago, and here you are. Do you still own horses?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, and I got to say I really appreciate your service to us and to our country. I appreciate the fact that you're here with us today. And just a question I like to conclude with all of my guests is, if you had it all to do over again, would you change anything?
No, not really. No. I think I was very blessed, had a great life, and very satisfied, happy with my family.
That's great. Thanks.
Love them dearly.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Hugh, Syron, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
I appreciate you having me, John.
A small town with a lot of heart and history. A hidden gem with a sense of community. Welcome to Leonard.
Do you love local sports? Whether it's Oxford High School or Parks and Rec, you can buy copies of each game. To purchase your copy, call us at 248-628-9658 or give us an email at manager@occtv.org or talk to us at the next game. Hopefully we'll see you there.